Jirou is a limp-willy loser who failed to bag his crush, but his life changes when he's forced to marry and play baby daddy to the school's hottest baddie, or neither of them will graduate. One day, a pink-haired girl, Akari, who's bustier than your mom, is praying in a temple, begging to get paired up with a handsome hunk in the marriage practical. Just then, a brunette cutie, Shiori, pops up, but she slips and ends up getting a handful, surprising Akari. They recognize each other, and both realize they are here to pray about their marriage practical. But Akari runs away embarrassed, not wanting to be seen praying. For them, the marriage practical is a new school program where they pair up a man and a woman for a mock marriage where they live together with the goal of giving losers like you a chance to clap some cheeks. However, Jirou is more focused on playing video games where the one-dimensional heroine resembles his crush, Shiori, even though his loser friend, Camo, tries to convince him that 3D is the way to go. Suddenly, Akari and her group show up, telling these fugly gremlins not to get in her way, and they happily follow her like simps. Camo starts glazing Akari and her sweet cheeks, but Jirou states that she's disgusting, and a big Willy Sigma like himself would never get close to her. Suddenly, a handsome hunk, Minami, pops up, and Akari starts simping for him. But Minami simply thanks her compliments. In class, Jirou sits next to his childhood crush, Shiori, and while they're both nervous about the marriage practice, Jirou hopes he gets her as his partner. The teacher starts explaining the marriage practical where a couple will live together while their heart monitor is tracked for points. But to all the dude's disappointment, the couple will stay in different rooms. Jirou starts imagining that his luck will be like that in video games, where he ends up with Shiori as his partner. But the anime gods pull a prank on him and pair him up with Akari. She starts freaking out, now wanting to be paired with a loser like Jirou. But she knows that he wants to be paired with Shiori, and starts teasing him, saying that Shiori is doing hot yoga with her partner. Suddenly, their points decrease and Akari starts panicking, not wanting to fail, so she tells Jirou that they have to get along. She explains that if they reach the top 10 in points, they can trade partners, and while they both want that, Jirou thinks it's impossible as he imagines Akari being cozy with him. Akari gets aggressive, saying how she will milk him every night like a good wife, and while Jirou gets nervous, their points increase. She gets happy seeing it and asks to do more, but Jirou tells her he's not used to this and goes away to get some drinks, leaving her distressed as she also doesn't want Minami with other girls. However, when Jirou gets the drinks, he sees Minami and his dear Shiori talking like a married couple, and when he realizes that they're paired up, he runs away home and coops himself. Akari scolds him for being a wimpy loser, but when her insults don't work, she caresses his head to calm him down. She tells him that they should take the marriage practice seriously so they can switch partners, and while pulling his head for a great view, she tells him to pull his big boy pants on and be a man. Just then, the doorbell rings, and on the other side, Camo is inviting Jirou to a Mia Khalifa fan meeting. While Akari is fine with Jirou leaving, she asks him to give her a goodbye kiss on the cheek. Jirou starts panicking, now knowing what to do, and when both Camo and Akari are screaming in his ears, forcing him to make a choice, he goes to kiss Akari on the lips, giving her a deep kiss, leaving her on the floor, wet and creamy while their points increase. The next morning, Jirou dreams about Shiori waking him, asking him for a morning kiss, but suddenly, she starts headbutting his head, and it turns out to be Akari waking him up with a frying pan. She tells him to help with cooking, and like a good husband, he follows her orders. A week passes, and while Jirou is struggling with Akari, he looks out to see Shiori being lovey-dovey with Minami, causing him to get depressed. A teacher walks in, telling him to bring Akari with him to the faculty room after school, but after school ends, it starts raining. Camo offers Jirou to share an umbrella, but Jirou rejects him, not wanting to share an umbrella with a creepy 3D girl lover. Camo starts yapping a lecture about how 3D girls are superior to real girls because they can't get pregnant. Akari pops up in a hurry, and when Jirou asks her where she's going, she explains that she's going to a karaoke where Minami will be present. He reminds her that they need to meet the teacher, but Akari leaves anyway, telling him to deal with it alone. While Akari is away, enjoying simping over Minami's mid-voice at singing, wanting to tickle his pickle, Jirou is getting scolded by the teacher for not bringing Akari with him, but she continues to inform him that because they have the worst score points, they can fail the class. Then, while waiting for the rain to stop, Jirou imagines Akari getting tired of singing to the microphone and instead wants to give Minami some sloppy toppy. Just then, Shiori pops up and sits beside Jirou, also not having an umbrella. They start talking, but suddenly, Shiori hugs Jirou, and while he's confused, she tells him that she got scared seeing a drawing of a bug on the window. It reminds Jirou of this morning's incident and realizes that she hugged Minami for the same reason. They start getting closer with Shiori not liking how Jirou has been avoiding her, but it's as if the anime gods hate Jirou. Minami shows up to pick up Shiori with an umbrella. Shiori tries to stay with Jirou to accompany him, but he tells her that she should follow Minami and go home. However, Akari is hiding with an umbrella of her own, wanting to pick up Jirou, and when he is finally alone, she comes to him, taking him home. On their way back to their place, Akari scolds him for not being aggressive to Shiori and claps her sweet cheeks right in front of Minami to show him who's her daddy. But instead of being motivated, Jirou gets demoralized. She pinches him and cheers him up, saying that he has to try harder so they can both get with their crushes, and it lifts Jirou's spirit. At home, Akari cooks them both omelette rice, which surprises him, and when she puts some ketchup on his eggs, she starts making happy noises, pretending to cream all over his eggs. But when he looks down, he sees that she wrote down love on his food. To return the favor, he offers her a bite of his food, and when she declines, he gets upset and pulls back. However, she takes a bite close to his face, and when they look at each other, their hearts both skip a beat. Suddenly, Kamo calls Jirou, making him take the call in the other room, leaving Akari conflicted about why her heart skipped a beat for Jirou. A few days later, Jirou has another dream about Shiori who begs him to sleep with her. But before he gets to the good part, Akari screams out his name, which wakes him up. He opens the door to confront Akari, but she hugs him and asks him to accompany her tonight, giving him a slight déjà vu. However, it turns out she's watching a horror movie, The Walmart Walking Dead, and when Jirou asks her why they're doing this, she explains that by watching a horror movie together, they can bond closer and get some points. At first, Jirou thinks that she's being silly, but after some convincing, he agrees to do it. Suddenly, Akari pulls out 2 matching pajamas, saying how they should wear them like a true couple while watching the movie. Jirou realizes that Akari used her own money to buy this, and here, he realizes that ever since she came back from karaoke, she has been more active, and Jirou thinks that something happened with Minami. After more convincing, Jirou agrees and she tells him to turn around so she can change. Without any hesitation, Jirou changes to the pajamas as well. Suddenly, a thunder strikes and causes a blackout, making everything dark. Jirou turns around, but Akari, being scared of the dark, hugs him, making him feel a lot of plumpful sensation down under, almost making his soft bone do a salute. Suddenly, the points increase and it brings Jirou back to reality to realize that Akari is scared. He uses his phone to light Akari, and when he does, he sees a girl in her most fragile state, and Akari starts tweaking, calling him a degenerate. After calming down, they realize they can't go inside their rooms, so they decide to chill on the couch. While being scared, Akari asks Jirou to tell her a fun story, and while she is expecting a story about Peppa Pig, he tells her a horror story about Diddy's water well. She covers her ears in fear, saying how cruel Jirou is, and when Jirou apologizes for his action, she asks him to let her count on him. However, just as she wants to hold his hand, Jirou starts panicking, almost busting his pants off. Just then, Akari pulls out an aromatherapy candle she got from her friends, and when she lights it up, it soothes them both, making them feel relaxed. Suddenly, Jirou hugs Akari and tells her that she's cute, but quickly pulls back, realizing he messed up. However, he spots her asleep, and while telling her that she's cute again, he holds her hand before falling asleep, hoping she didn't hear what he said. But in the morning, Akari wakes up, knowing everything he said. That morning, Jirou finds out that with the improvement he and Akari have made, they reach the B rank couple, which Jirou is happy about. However, Akari is worried about something else, and when Jirou sees it, he clocks that the pairing of Minami and Shiori has ended up at E rank. For the next few days, Jirou is stuck in his thoughts that while he's happy that Shiori is not getting well with Minami, everything he and Akari do will be pointless as long as Minami and Shiori are stuck at E rank. In a cafe, Shiori is hanging out with her friends, Sachi and Natsumi, but unusual to them, Akari seems to be deep in her thoughts, and they tease her for daydreaming about Minami. Akari assures them that she's not, but when Natsumi points out how the pancakes feel like a prince's kiss, she starts remembering her kiss with Jirou. Seen from 1915, they continue teasing Akari, but this time they warn her that while Minami's relationship is going horribly, once he gets comfortable with Shiori, she will take Minami away from Akari. Back home, sick and stuck in bed, needing rest, Akari texts him, saying to open the door when she gets home after she forgot her keys, and it annoys him that Akari is not here taking care of him and getting more points. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, and while Jirou is happy that Akari is back, he opens it to see Shiori on the other side, ready to take care of him. Back on the bed, he starts wondering why Shiori is here, and she explains that Akari told her to take care of him while she's out with her friends. Jirou starts thanking Akari for the godlike assist. She pulls out a compress, which reminds her of when Jirou once took care of her when she was sick, and when she puts the compress on his head, Jirou folds to her cuteness. Then Shiori leaves to use his kitchen, but despite everything she just did, it still scares Jirou as once upon a time, he was about to confess his feelings to Shiori only to get friend-zoned. Suddenly, Shiori brings back some rice porridge, and when Jirou eats it, he creams to how creamy the food is. After Jirou finishes eating, he reveals to Shiori that he knows that her relationship with Minami is going horribly, and Shiori confesses that she wishes that Jirou was to be her husband as she's not good with boys. While holding her hand, he tells her that he's willing to help her in any way so she will succeed in her relationship. But before Shiori responds, Jirou hides like a coward, realizing how creepy he is. Hours later, Jirou falls asleep, and while beside him, Shiori also remembers how she friend-zoned Jirou and regretted it afterward, hoping to take it back. She kisses Jirou, but stops midway, realizing that she needs to work hard so her feelings can reach him fully. Later, Akari goes home and takes a shower, but suddenly, Jirou talks to her from the outside. He thanks her for sending Shiori to take care of him, saying how it made his dreams come true, but he also assures her that he will be a proper husband to her so he can switch and be with Shiori, while Akari is with Minami. However, instead of feeling glad, Akari feels annoyed by his statement. Days later, Akari interrogates Jirou about why boys tend to like girls like Shiori instead of herself. When Jirou refuses to answer, Akari pulls back the food, saying he will only eat rice if he doesn't give any suggestions. But after seeing the food, Jirou suggests to Akari that she make a lunchbox for Minami. So for days, Jirou helps Akari with her lunchbox, tasting her cooking and grading them. But while he states that everything tastes delicious, he thinks that the egg should be a bit sweet. However, Akari rejects his idea, saying how Minami has a mature taste bud, and when Jirou tells her to stop asking for his suggestion, she tells him to shut up and help her. At school, Kamo is jealous seeing Jirou eating Akari's cooking, and he starts yapping about how Jirou is a bottom who gets a stick up his plot hole. Suddenly, Akadi pops up, asking why they mention her name, but without explaining more, they simply apologize. She asks Jirou what the lunchbox tastes like, and again, while Jirou enjoys it, he tells her that the omelet should be sweet, causing another argument in Kamo, who's watching simply curses the anime gods as he himself would love to be in Jirou's shoes. The next morning, Jirou comes out to Akari, who is already enthusiastically cooking for Minami's lunch. Just then, his stomach starts growling, and she feeds him some of the leftover eggs. While he hesitates at first, Jirou eats it, but to him, it still is not sweet. He compares the eggs to how he's living at the moment, his wife, Akari, cooking for another man in Minami, while he himself is in love with another man's wife in Shiori, a truly bitter flavor. Then, Akari is ready to deliver the lunchbox while looking like a diabetic snack. Jirou feels conflicted seeing how Akari usually dresses carelessly when with him while dressing beautifully for another man, but before leaving, Akari asks Jirou for another goodbye kiss, saying that it previously gave her courage and she needs it now for Minami. At first, Jirou starts panicking, but after gathering his courage, he's about to kiss her. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and it turns out to be Shiori, which shocks them. She brings them apple pie, saying how Minami asked her to make them as he likes sweet foods. Akari realizes she screwed up with the eggs, while Shiori notices the lunchbox and gets curious if they're about to go picnic. Then, after Jirou eats the failed lunchbox, he tries to cheer up Akari, but she feels depressed, knowing that her best effort in cooking is still losing to Shiori's apple pie. Jirou tries to point out the good things about Akari, but he screws up by saying that her best assets are her sweet cheeks and milky jugs that every man would love to taste. While Jirou is panicking, Akari gets aggressive, asking Jirou if he ever thought about her that way. When he denies it, Akari jumps on him, calling him a liar and offering him to have a taste of heaven between her legs. Jirou gets tempted at first, but after seeing the true Akari from when they lived together, he stops her, saying that she should do this with the one she loves. It breaks Akari's heart to get declined, and she asks Jirou for them to stop their married life. For a month, both Akari and Jirou stop talking to each other, causing their points to drop worse than MGK's career. When it's time for evaluation, it's Shiori's points that manage to reach A rank, but she can't get Jirou as her husband as Jirou and Akari drop down to E rank. In the bathroom, Camo asks Jirou what happened, and he reflects on what he did and how much of an idiot he is for saying that boys would love to clap Akari. He remembers when Akari was on top of him, and he realizes that they're both the same, being scared as it's both their first time. Later, Shiori asks Jirou to talk privately, and knowing that something happened between him and Akari, she pushes him to make amends with her, saying that she will vouch for him. It makes Jirou smile hearing that, and the courage to do so. Later at home, Jirou arrives to cold food that Akari made for him, but not wanting for this to go longer, he asks her to talk. Akari invites him into her room, but inside, she ignores him. Jirou starts yapping about how he actually does have wild fantasies about her, and how he imagines jiggling her jugs all the time. She coops up in her blanket, telling him to just forget about what happened, but Jirou refuses to do so and uses his almighty Riz. He tells her that he didn't reject her because he doesn't like her, but it's because he felt that he should treat her more and better rather than just clap her out of lust. Jirou states how he hates that they are now awkward and can't eat together like before. Jirou opens her blanket like a husband opening his wife's veil, and he tells Akari that he wants to be her husband again. They both fold, and while Jirou tries to retract his statement, Akari puts his hand on her face and admits that she likes him quite a lot. Jirou gets in a trance and goes for the kiss, but Akari stops him, saying that it's a joke. Jirou gets embarrassed after folding, and she welcomes him back as her husband. However, after Jirou leaves, Akari goes to her balcony, panicking after she tells Jirou her true feelings and that she actually has feelings for him. Days later, during basketball practice, Jirou can't keep his eyes off Akari, but when Kamo calls him out, he calls him out for staring at Shiori, which he is not. Just then, Minami drops a three-pointer and cooks everyone on the court like prime curry, and when Jirou looks around, he sees both Akari and Shiori in awe of him, while Jirou is rotting like a loser. Just then, Akari's friends tell her of a rumor that both Shiori and Minami refuse to switch partners as they are both happy with each other. But Akari refuses to give up hope. Meanwhile, after Camo tells Jirou the same thing, he gets depressed, but Camo continues teasing him, saying that Shiori would be happier with a Chad like Minami instead of a beta like Jirou. Suddenly, Jirou imagines Minami turning into a knight, cooking up monsters and getting the praises of the people while bagging Shiori and Akari as his baby mamas, while Jirou just watches from afar like a bum. Then Shiori approaches the sad-looking Jirou, asking him why he's sad. Jirou wonders how Shiori will react if he tells her that she is the reason why he is sad, so he tries it out and asks her if she will stay with Minami forever. Meanwhile, inside the gymnasium, Akari is cleaning the equipment when Minami pops up from out of nowhere. She gets shocked and steps back, causing a box to fall on her, but before it hits her, Minami saves her and ends up on top of her. With Minami on her, she feels her heart beating faster, and it relieves her to know that she still has feelings for him. When he gets up and is about to leave, she gathers her courage and asks him if he is really going to stay with Shiori. He tells her that might stay, and it breaks her heart, causing her to cry. Minami notices her tears, and when he confronts her, Akari tells him that she has dust in her eyes, but he looks into her intensely, causing her to fold. Outside, Camo is also cleaning the place, but he clocks Minami and Akari kissing. Back with Jirou, he's about to ask Shiori if he can switch and be his husband if they both reach A grade, but before he gets to say it, Camo pops up, disturbing the moment. Before Camo gets to tell Jirou what he saw, both Akari and Minami appear, and when Jirou looks at Akari, she looks away as if she's guilty. Being in the middle of it, Camo starts tweaking, imagining himself needing to get out of here but fails to do so. Minami calls out to him, and using his manly Riz, he gives Camo the gymnasium key and makes Camo question if he likes to gobble glizzy. He then takes Shiori away, leaving Jirou with the depressed-looking Akari, but before he gets to tell her anything, she leaves him to go back home. The next day, Jirou finds out that Akari is sick, and before he gets to her, Camo approaches him and tells him the truth that he saw Akari and Minami kiss. To Camo's surprise, Jirou simply says that he's fine with it, but despite his statement, Jirou feels conflicted inside after hearing about it. Then he goes home to Akari on the couch, and when he sits beside her, He tells her that knows about what she did with Minami, and even with the pain in his eyes, he tells her that he supports her attempt in getting Minami. Akari starts laughing and reveals that all Minami did was clean some dirt from her eyes, and the reason she is sad is because Minami refused to switch partners. Just then, reality hits Akari like a truck, and she starts crying, knowing Minami doesn't see her romantically. Jirou pulls her up to look at her face, and when she gets upset at him for seeing her crying face, Jirou hugs her, and they continue hugging while Akari cries until night falls. Later, while Akari is taking a shower, Jirou can't believe that he hugged Akari while she's crying. Just then, Akari walks out in Jirou's t-shirt, a look that any man would fold to. She pulls out a popsicle and gobbles on it beside Jirou, making him imagine some creamy thoughts. As Akari gets too close, Jirou tells her to be careful, saying how nervous he is to see her like this. However, Akari gets even closer, teasing him for edging his personal creamy popsicle. Just then, Akari reveals that she didn't kiss Minami because she's not an easy catch, and when Jirou turns around, she kisses him with her hand. While embarrassed, she tells Jirou that he is her first ever kiss, and his tongue and lips are the only ones she ever tasted. They both get flustered, and while Akari is scolding him for kissing her, Jirou is deep in his own mind, realizing that he is her first, but deep down, Jirou feels somewhat happy. Days later, before leaving for school, Akari fixes Jirou's tie, and when he looks at her, imagining her as his actual wife, Akari gets angry, telling him to not look at her jugs. However, she hugs him, telling him to be careful at school, but before he gets to hug her, she stops and walks away. At school, Jirou runs into Shiori cleaning the classroom even though it's not her turn, and when Jirou asks her why she's doing this, she tells him that her friend, Mei, asks her to take over her job and clean the class with Jirou. While Jirou is happy about this, Shiori is too, as Mei gave her the spot so Shiori can be with Jirou. Later, Mei teases Shiori for not pouncing on Jirou during cleaning, and while Shiori is nervous, Mei tells her to quickly kiss Jirou to seal the deal before Akari wins his heart. Then Jirou and Akari continue cleaning the class, but despite their childhood bond, they act awkward with each other, not being able to hold a conversation. Meanwhile, Akari is with her friends in a cafe when they start teasing her about Jirou, and the possibility of him actually being Akari's husband, giving her a mini Jirou as her baby daddy. But Akari convinces herself that her heart belongs to Minami and nobody else's. However, after the hangout, Akari goes to look for Jirou, and she finds him with Shiori, just the two of them. She quickly hides, and after seeing how happy Jirou looks, she feels uneasy in her heart and walks away, leaving the two together. Just then, while cleaning the blackboard, Shiori asks Jirou to close his eyes and lean over. And while Jirou does it, hoping for a kiss, she cleans his shoulder, saying there is dust on it, leaving Jirou high and dry. However, Shiori herself regrets her actions for not kissing Jirou, pitying herself for being a coward for pulling out of the kiss. That night, while Jirou is on the balcony, Akari approaches him with a glass of warm milk. They enjoy the stars together, and Akari points out that her name, Akari, has the same meaning as the stars. She asks Jirou to start calling her by her first name, but he refuses to do so, saying that his name is not as cool as hers. After Akari teases him, Jirou gathers his courage and calls her by her name, Akari, and as he starts panicking due to how cringy he is, Akari folds, asking him to call her name again. Jirou refuses to do so, but Akari tells him that it's weird as she's the only one who calls his first name out of love. They both freeze, realizing that Akari just said that she loves him, and while she tries to explain herself, saying that she loves him as his fake wife, she runs away into her room, refusing to believe she said her feelings out loud. The next day, the teacher announces that every pairing will undergo an academic exam to test out their chemistry. And while Jirou is confident that Minami and Shiori will do well, he feels pessimistic about himself and Akari. Just then, he realizes that he doesn't know if Akari is good at her studies, so after school, he tries to invite her to study together. Akari tells him that she is going karaoke with her friends and some guys from a different school, and that the guys specifically asked for her to be there. But when Jirou uses his big willy reason and tells Akari that he also needs her with him, Akari folds and agrees to study with him, despite not wanting to study. Meanwhile, Shiori is studying with Mei, and Mei teases Shiori for failing to kiss Jirou. But after Shiori helps her study, Mei promises to teach her more moves to make Jirou fall to his knees and bark for her. Back with Jirou, he's struggling to study with Akari as she doesn't want to study and is jealous, knowing that Jirou wants her to get good grades so he can switch to pair up with Shiori. Suddenly, Akari gets aggressive, telling Jirou that they should learn the human reproduction system through physical practice, and just before Jirou screams, he pushes her away, knowing that she wants to avoid studying. Just then, Jirou uses a different approach and praises her while pointing out that Akari manages to answer some questions, and with this, Akari is willing to study. After a few hours, they manage to finish studying, and Jirou keeps praising her to make her motivated to study. Just then, Akari thanks him, calling him sensei, which makes him fold. She realizes that calling him names will make his heart beat faster, so she starts calling him Big Daddy, Good Boy, and Darling to make him fold even harder. Wanting to make Jirou's heart beat faster, Akari pounces on him, putting him in a dangerous position, pushing him to his limits, forcing Jirou to take a peek at her wonderful plots. Suddenly, they slip and Jirou ends up on top of her. But as Akari asks him to stop playing around, Jirou has enough and becomes the aggressor. While Akari panics, Jirou stares at her deeply, caressing her body, making Akari squeal out happy noises and letting Jirou take her to Pound Town. But just before he lays the glorious pipe, Akari points out that his nose is bleeding like a classic anime MC. It stops their progression, and while Akari laughs at him, Jirou points out how weird Akari has been acting the whole day. She explains that it's because Jirou is only doing this for Shiori, but Jirou reveals that he's also doing this so Akari can be together with Minami. Jirou's statement leaves Akari deep in thought as she now realizes that if they manage to get to A rank, they won't be together anymore, and she won't be welcoming Jirou back home as his wife. She sniffs on her clothes and enjoys the same smell of soap Jirou uses on both his and her clothes, embracing their married life that will eventually end. The next day, Jirou meets Akari in the morning, and unlike usual, she calls him by his formal last name. For the whole day, she acts like the normal, loving housewife she usually is, but calls him by his last name, which bothers him. At school, he can't get his mind off it, and Kamo teases him for it. They accidentally walk in on Mei, who's rejecting a girl who likes her. She tells the girl that they can't be together, and the girl asks Mei to call her by her first name, and when she does, it gets Jirou to start thinking about Akari. After hours of thinking, Jirou is still stuck in his thoughts, but he remembers how Akari asked to be called by her first name, which reminds them of the stars, so he plans to test it out. Back home, Jirou is about to shower, and when Akari gets home, he prepares himself to call her first name. However, she barges in happy and hugs him even while he's topless, saying how their test scores have returned and they end up in 8 places. They both get excited, but Jirou tells her to leave so he can shower. Later, while Akari is helping Jirou dry his hair, Jirou tests his theory and calls Akari by her first name, and when she finally hears it, she gets flustered and returns to calling him by his first name. He continues calling her by her first name, with each call making her fold even deeper and squeal happy noises even louder. She gets closer and asks him to continue calling her by her first name, saying how they only have a little time left as a couple. Meanwhile, Mei sees that Jirou and Akari have reached the 8th rank, and she informs Shiori about it, saying that she needs to hurry and tickle Jirou's pickle before it's too late. Just then, a ball hits Shiori on her head, sending her to the emergency room, and here, Mei sees an opportunity. She confronts Jirou and tells him to visit Shiori, and while he's confused, she gives him bread and some drink, pushing him to go to Shiori. Meanwhile, Shiori gets a text from Mei, telling her that Jirou is on his way, and Shiori quickly makes herself look pretty, waiting for Jirou's arrival. When Jirou pops up, Shiori is happy to see him, but when he gives her the food, she sees the same bread and drink, and Shiori tells him that Minami put it there, which Jirou understands since she's married to the guy. She points out how good Jirou's relationship has been with Akari, but when Jirou tells her that they actually argued a lot, Shiori points out how she wants to be his wife and be in Akari's position. Shiori vents about how compared to other girls like Akari, she is not mature enough and hasn't kissed anyone. Suddenly, she asks Jirou to help her practice kissing, and while he hesitates at first, he accepts, refusing to miss the chance to gobble her tongue. Just as they are about to kiss, Shiori tries canceling it, not being prepared. Just then, Sachi walks in, wanting to sleep, but she sees both Jirou and Shiori's shoes, assuming someone's daughter is getting pumped, and Sachi walks out. It leaves Jirou on top of Shiori, kissing her deeply, and Jirou quickly gets up, but Shiori tells him it's fine, and he leaves embarrassed. Meanwhile, Akari is waiting for Jirou to text back when Sachi tells her that she saw someone shaking the bed in the ER, but suddenly, she gets a message from Jirou who tells her he had just been in the ER for Shiori, and here, Akari imagines that it was Jirou who laid Shiori the pipe. Following this, Akari spends her time alone at the cafe where Minami works, and while Minami notices that Akari is there, she doesn't care about him at all, realizing she's depressed about Jirou with another woman. Later, before Akari enters her place, she stops, realizing that after what Jirou did, she will meet a Jirou that she will never see. A Jirou that only Shiori has seen. She enters and is greeted by Jirou sleeping on the couch alongside a lot of messy clothes. But when she looks around, she sees snacks and realizes that he was waiting for her this whole time. Akari takes off everything she's wearing and lies down on top of him, saying how she wishes he was awake to show her love and hopes that what happened with Shiori is not true, not wanting Jirou to leave her behind as his wife. The next morning, Jirou wakes up and is shocked to see Akari without clothes, and when he points it out, Akari calmly covers herself. He starts panicking, not remembering anything, so Akari takes this chance and tells him he's a scum for not remembering how he kept her awake all night long, which they almost broke the couch. Jirou feels horrible about it, and Akari asks him if last night was his first time. When he says yes, Akari feels relieved, knowing he didn't lay Shiori the pipe. She reveals that she lied, and it upsets him to be tricked, but Akari covers up his ears and vents her anger towards him, saying how she knows deep down that Jirou prefers to do it with Shiori rather than her. Later, Shiori is tasked with taking out the garbage, but she realizes that she can't do it alone. Sachi and Natsumi pop up, and when they see Shiori's heavy task, they plan to help. However, when Jirou and Kama walk past, the girls tell them to help them out and show the girls what they're made of. When they allocate the tasks, they pair Shiori and Jirou together, but Shiori asks to be paired with Sachi instead, and when she sees how Shiori reacted towards Jirou, Sachi realizes that something is up. Afterward, while Akari and her friends are chilling, they ask her how she feels about Jirou, and while she doesn't answer, they both know that Akari has caught feelings for that nerdy loser. Akari feels conflicted, not knowing if she should choose Jirou or Minami, and her friends encourage her to take her time and confront her deepest feelings. Then, Akari goes home, leaving Sachi and Natsumi where they both discuss what they saw with Shiori. They worry that if Akari takes too long, Shiori might win Jirou's heart before her, so they need a plan to make Akari confront her feelings, and when they see a poster for a firework festival, they realize what they need to do. Days later, the girls invite Akari to the festival, and she asks Jirou to help her put on yukata so she can look pretty for Minami. While Jirou helps her with the yukata, Akari keeps mentioning how special Minami is to her, and it makes Jirou feel jealous. Then she asks Jirou to make a pattern on her yukata, and while he wants to make a ribbon, she tells him that Minami would prefer something else. Jirou puts his hand on her back to make the pattern and causes her to breathe heavily as she feels the tension between them. Then, Akari arrives at the festival, ready to raise up Minami, and she meets up with her friends who hype her up to get Minami so they can finally be together. Akari convinces herself that she loves Minami, but whenever she thinks about it, she imagines Jirou showing up beside her. Just then, Minami's friends show up with bad news, and they inform the girls that because of work, Minami can't come, which angers Sachi, who promised Akari that she will have her chance at Minami. One of the boys, Terafun, tries to raise up Akari as an apology, but Sachi pulls him away, threatening that she will bite off his willy for even trying. With Minami absent, Akari walks around the festival alone, reminiscing how hard she worked for her look, but instead of feeling sad, she feels somewhat relieved to know Minami is not here. She holds her yukata that was made by Jirou and feels scared as, in her mind, both Minami and Jirou have no feelings for her. Suddenly, as if the anime gods hate her, Akari sees Minami at the festival, but he's not alone as he brings Shiori with him. She realizes that despite all the hard work and makeup she used, she's still lost to someone else, leaving Akari heartbroken. However, after Minami and Shiori walk past the festival, they split up as Minami has to work, and Shiori only helps him navigate through the festival as a shortcut, not considering their walk as a date. Meanwhile, Jirou is alone at home, depressed as he imagines Akari having fun with Minami, where she gives him a kiss, the same kiss Jirou gave her. Suddenly, he gets a call from Akari, and when he picks up, all he can hear is Akari crying heavily. He asks her for her location, but when he steps out of the house, he finds her sitting on the floor outside the door. Even though it breaks Jirou's heart seeing Akari in tears, he doesn't ask questions and embraces her, letting her cry her heart out on his shoulder. Later, they enjoy the fireworks together from the balcony, and remembering what he said before, Akari tells Jirou that she wants him to make a ribbon on her yukata. Jirou then tries to do it, but when he struggles at one part, he goes to look for tutorials on his phone. Suddenly, he drops his phone, and his hands end up on Akari's stomach, but she tells him to stay there so they both can enjoy the show while he embraces her. Akari asks him to call her first name, and when he does, she feels pleased. In his heart, Jirou still loves Shiori, but after seeing Akari come back home, it confuses him why he feels relieved to have her back with him. Meanwhile, Shiori feels lonely while thinking about how she hasn't talked with Jirou since the day they kissed, while Akari is in her room worried, trying to convince herself that she still likes Minami. The next morning, Akari and Jirou receive the new point result, and they are surprised to end up below the A rank, but Akari tells him that she will be counting on him for another month as his wife. In the bathroom, it confuses Jirou on why Akari still wants to switch after Minami broke her heart, but before he gets an answer, Akari barges on him and his exposed dragon. She tells him that there is a spider and asks him to accompany her until they can find the little jit. He tries scolding her for barging into him bathing, but she doesn't care about him or his baby jewels, as all she cares about is the spider. She drags him to get some snacks, but after sitting down, she needs to pee, so she drags him to wait for her outside the bathroom. Akari keeps making sure he's there and tells him to close his ear, so he won't listen to her fountain. After finishing, Jirou goes inside to pee, and while waiting for him, she realizes how kind Jirou is to want to deal with her requests, and when he finishes his business, he asks for her hand, which she gladly holds. Then, Jirou starts eating some ice cream, and when Akari sees how tasty it looks, she asks him to give her some of his sweet cream. She opens her mouth, begging for his cream, almost causing Jirou to bust, and he feeds her. They start talking about scenarios where they met without the marriage practical, and play with the idea of them dating for real. Suddenly, Akari asks him if he wants to date her, but quickly tells him she's joking. It leaves Jirou contemplating everything, questioning why he actually considers it even though he likes Shiori. Suddenly, she sees the bug and starts tweaking, putting Jirou in a position every man would go to war for. Later, while Jirou is asleep, Akari sleeps while holding onto the wall where Jirou is, imagining him comforting her. Meanwhile, Shiori asks Minami for advice for herself, but she says that it's a friend of hers who accidentally kissed a guy, but is worried that the guy didn't like it. Shiori adds that her friend doesn't know if she wants to tell him how she truly feels or not. Minami answers that her friend should tell the guy her feelings and that she shouldn't wait until it's too late, like where she will end up regretting it. Days later, Jirou is having dinner with Kamo, and after hearing about his accidental kiss with Shiori, Kamo gets angry and forces to kiss Jirou to overwrite the taste of Shiori's juicy lips. Just then, Shiori is on her way home and walks past Jirou almost getting kissed. He quickly runs outside to confront her and tells her that Kamo kissing him is an accident, and Shiori fully understands that his kiss on her was accidental. They both quickly realize they are talking about a different kiss, and they both get flustered. He notices her heavy baggage and offers to help her. They walk home together, and while carrying the same bag, they both imagine that this is what it's like if they're married, which is what you losers would never achieve. Jirou apologizes for kissing her, but she tells him that she learned a lot about kissing from him, and she doesn't mind it. They both get in the heat of the moment, and when they're about to kiss again, a cat interrupts them.
No, God!
Shiori laughs it off, and when she walks away, it reminds him of the old her that he loves very much. Days later, with the summer break approaching, Kamo puts an idea to Jirou about a part-time job at the beach where they stay for 3 days, and while he's hesitant about it, Kamo reveals that he already signed him in. He starts panicking, not wanting to join Kamo's part-time job, but then Shiori appears, and when she sees the job poster, she reveals that she is also working there for the summer. It changes Jirou's tone as he imagines living with Shiori, but Kamo reminds him to talk with his wife, Akari, for her approval. Then Jirou goes home to find Akari in her swimsuit, looking hotter than the local hot moms in your area you see in ads. She explains to him that she's going to the beach with her friends for a part-time job, but Jirou doesn't hear a lick of what she says as he is way too deep and lost in the sauce. Akari asks him for his opinion, and when Jirou takes a closer look, she gets embarrassed and quickly covers up, saying that his intense glare could get her pregnant. Jirou asks her if there will be guys at the beach, and while Akari suspects that Jirou is jealous, he tells her that he actually prefers that she goes with guys for her safety, as all the men in the world would want a piece of her sweet cheeks. He adds that he's also going to a part-time job, but when he mentions that Shiori will also be there, Akari responds with a sad tone in her voice, saying she's glad to hear that. Suddenly, Akari asks him if he will feel lonely without her with him, and when Jirou refuses to answer, she pounces on him, getting into a prime position where any man would cream too. Akari starts riding him like a stallion, demanding him to answer, but when Akari states that she feels lonely without him, Jirou embraces her tight. Akari hugs him back, refusing to let go, wanting to remember his smell, but before Jirou cop a feel, she stops the hug. She then asks him if he likes her swimsuit, and after Jirou blushingly tells her that he does, She tells him that she will not wear it, which confuses him. However, she asks him to one day go to a beach with her, and she will keep this swimsuit just for his eyes only, which folds him. Just then, Jirou notices her job poster and realizes that they're going to the same part-time job. Days later, they arrive at the island they're working at, and after Minami shows them the place they'll be staying in, they go to the cafe and test out their uniforms. Then the supervisor tells them to pair up for the job, and after hearing this, Shiori comes to Jirou to ask him to pair up with her in the kitchen, which he happily agrees to. Meanwhile, Akari is working with Minami at the cashier, where all her dreams come true, but Minami's buddy, Terafune, watches in agony as he also has feelings for Akari. Just then, Sachi and Natsumi tease him for being second fiddle, saying how Minami is going to date Akari and clap her in front of them, but instead of being upset, Terafune tells them that it will never happen as he knows something they don't. In the kitchen, Mei encourages Shiori to make her move, and Mei helps her by calling for Jirou to help Shiori get something from the top shelf. Mei then leaves, and when Kamo pops up, she drags him away and gives him a different task to stop him from third wheeling. Back in the kitchen, Shiori is teaching Jirou how to apply cream to a dessert, but while doing it, she whispers naughtily, telling him not to cream too fast to prevent making a mess. Suddenly, she gets aggressive, causing Jirou to cream everywhere, including her face, making it look like a finishing scene from a certain orange hub. Jirou then cleans her face, but while doing it, she feels happy that she gets to feel Jirou's warm hand on her face. However, she wants more and initiates a kiss, but before they get to gobble each other's tongue, Shiori stops as she spots Natsumi and Sachi watching from the window. It leaves the both of them embarrassed, but despite the failure, Shiori is more than happy as she gets to make some progress with Jirou. After work, the group plays at the beach where the girls bring out their floaties to play, and when Kamo points out Akari's one-piece swimsuit, Jirou sees that she's wearing a different one than the one she showed him before, realizing that she might be keeping the other one for his eyes only. Just then, Shiori and Mei show up, and when they are about to get the fun started, Shiori points at something they should do, and they all are in shock to see her point at a hotel, making them think of a four-way. However, it turns out she suggests they make a sandcastle similar to the hotel. During it, Kamo can't control himself from glaring at Mei's beauties, and when he mentions it to Jirou, he also drools over Shiori's lovely puppies. Just then, Shiori seductively asks Jirou to dig a tunnel hole in the castle, while deep down, she also wants him to create a funnel in her. They make the tunnel and manage to touch each other's hands in the middle, which reminds them of their childhood, but in the middle of their joy, Akari watches in jealousy of their moment. Later, Jirou and Akari are given a task to buy some snacks for the group, and they see a couple's discount at the store. When they get to the cashier, they pretend to be a couple, but while the cashier compliments them as a couple, Jirou laughs nervously. It infuriates Akari that he acts like a wimp loser when he's with her, stating that Minami would never be like this. Jirou then leaves to pick up the food, but when he looks for Akari, he finds her between two dudes who are looking to Eiffel Tower her. They start teasing Akari in front of Jirou, saying that a baddie like her would never date a limp-willy loser like Jirou. But realizing how uncomfortable Akari is, Jirou brings out his big willy energy, pulls Akari to his body, and tells these chumps that Akari is his wife, which makes Akari fold and scares off the creeps. However, Jirou starts apologizing for calling Akari his wife, but Akari gets angry, telling him that she doesn't mind being called his wife. She adds that Jirou ruined his chance to look like a cool anime MC and made her look foolish for letting her own heart race. Later in the day, the girls spend their time bathing together, and while they're talking about their fake husbands, Akari's friends talk to her about Jirou. While they continuously talk about him, Shiori listens in, taking mental notes of how Jirou is as a husband. Mei confronts them, asking if it's okay to talk about their privacy like this, and instead of opposing her, they invite Mei to talk about her perspective on romance. Then Mei spouts out the biggest facts about romance that even Shakespeare would be proud of, and the girls start ogling her, asking her to give them her babies. Meanwhile, Akari and Shiori are on the sidelines as they both lack experience, but after hearing what Mei said, they both think about Jirou. After the bath, Akari runs into Jirou, and when she sees that he's sunburned, she asks him to sit down next to her so she can put her cream on him. While Jirou is worried that others might see them, Akari doesn't care as she is still his fake wife. Just then, she notices that Jirou is not ticklish, so she starts tickling his body, and while Jirou tries to stop her, she rests her head on his back, hugging him and telling him how she misses doing this with him like they usually do back home. Just then, Sachi walks out, and the couple quickly acts like nothing happened, where Akari lies by saying that Jirou is here to buy them some drinks. When Jirou is buying them their drinks, he calls Akari by her surname, which pisses her off, and when the girls leave, she texts him, telling her to meet him afterward in private. Then the two of them go somewhere without the others knowing, but Mei asks Shiori that they should also walk around. At the beach, Jirou apologizes to Akari, even though he doesn't know what he did wrong, and it angers her that he keeps apologizing. Suddenly, she takes off her hoodie and reveals the swimsuit she's been keeping for him. Akari reveals that it frustrates her to see him act coldly towards her outside their marriage, as if they don't know each other, but Jirou explains that he knows how Akari doesn't want to be seen with a loser like him. She pulls him towards her, telling him to look at her more like how he looks at her at home. And while Jirou is getting lost in the sauce, she pulls him in harder to get an eyeful of her milky twins. After calming down, Akari vents how she hates him for calling her last name and how he has fun with other girls, which makes her scared that he will stop being her husband at home. Jirou realizes something and asks her if she's jealous, but Akari starts panicking, stating that she doesn't feel jealous. Just then, Shiori and Mei appear, forcing Jirou and Akari to hide together in a small room, pushing their bodies against each other while trying to keep quiet. Just then, with Jirou so close to her, Akari realizes that she has caught feelings for him, and it hurts her to imagine him being with Shiori, leaving her empty and void of his affection. With the room temperature rising, Akari asks him not to leave her, but Mei hears something, and when she checks, she doesn't find anything. However, Jirou's sweat starts dripping on Akari, and it makes her sensitive, causing her to release happy noises and bang on the room. Shiori and Mei think that someone is getting pumped, so they quickly leave. With them gone, Akari tells Jirou to get off her, but Jirou is in too deep and calls out Akari for toying with his feelings. After hearing this, Akari hates seeing him like this and completely gives herself completely to Jirou, but Jirou takes it a step further and gets even closer. She tells him that his knee is touching her hoo-ha, but to her surprise, Jirou tells Akari that it's actually his almighty cannon giving her the full salute. Akari feels happy to know that she makes Jirou like this, but then Jirou lays on top of her, and while she thinks he's about to show her what a Mandigo feels like, she realizes that he collapsed. Later, Akari manages to take Jirou back after he gets a heat stroke, and when he apologizes for what happened, she insists him not to. However, she calls him out for only seeing her body, asking him to see different parts of her, while she sees the different sides of him as they are still married. Hearing this makes Jirou happy a little, but it hurts him when he hears her saying that she's willing to know more about him only when they're married. Later, when Akari and Jirou return back to their rooms, Shiori notices how both of them arrive at the same time. The next morning, she meets Jirou, who is in awe with the sight of Shiori in her pajamas, which makes him jealous of Minami, who gets to see this every day. But before Shiori gets to ask him about last night, she decides not to continue with her question. Jirou then meets with Akari, and while they brush their teeth, it surprises Jirou to see how she acts normal after what happened the other night, but he credits it to her being understanding for the both of them. Later, while at work, Jirou reminds Shiori of tonight's courage test that they will partake in, and she starts panicking as she is a scaredy cat. Shiori feels scared that she will become a burden to whoever she's paired with, but Jirou tells her if they can somehow be paired up, it will be easier for her as he knows that she's a coward since they were little. Shiori tells him that she loves his personality for that, and they quickly realize what she just said, causing her to run away. Jirou starts thinking hard about what she just said, but Camo pops up and teases him for it, saying he wants some of his loving too. However, Camo tells Jirou that he can check the pairings and ensure that he will end up with Shiori. Camo reminds him that he's the younger brother of the person who hired them, so he's got a way to work it out. While Jirou accepts Camo's offer, he also asks him to cheat and pair up Akari with Minami, stating that he wants her to be happy too. Later, the girls pick up the pairings, and when Mei sees what every girl has, she puts it on a note and shows them to Camo. She asks him why he's doing this, and like a true bro, Camo tells Mei that he just wants to see his fellow loser, Jirou, win and clap some cheeks, which Mei can respect. That night, the pairings get ready for their test of courage where Jirou pretends that he didn't cheat to get paired up with Shiori. Meanwhile, Akari is happy to be with Minami, but when he grabs her hand, she imagines Jirou for some reason, remembering how soft his hands feel on her palm. Then, they begin the courage test as they all set out into the forest, but after a few hours, they all return except Minami and Akari, who are still in the forest. Sachi suggests that Akari is probably off gobbling Minami's glizzy, which makes Jirou jealous, and he is confused about why he feels this way. Just then, Camo's brother gets a phone call from Minami, who tells him that Akari dropped her phone, and she got separated from Minami, which shocks Jirou. Camo's brother tells the others to go back to their lodge, and while Shiori tries to get Jirou to follow the order, he refuses to do so and goes to look for Akari. On his path, instead of finding Akari, he finds her phone. Meanwhile, Akari is completely alone, sitting down and scared, and when she hears a noise, she screams out Jirou's name, but it turns out to be Minami. He takes her somewhere safe, and after calling the others to inform them that Akari is fine, He apologizes for not being Jirou. Akari gets flustered, and after seeing her reaction, Minami simply laughs at her. Back with Jirou, Shiori informs him that Minami is safe, and while he's happy about it, he feels jealous that Minami is the one who found her. Then he sits with Shiori and vents about how he overreacted like a loser after hearing that Akari got lost. But Shiori disagrees with him. She tells Jirou that ever since the marriage practical started, he has become amazing. But she inveighs how Akari gets to see a Jirou she has never seen before. She feels that Jirou as a husband must be different than the usual Jirou, but he disagrees, stating that both Jirou are the same old loser. He feels that being with Akari doesn't change him as they don't even love each other anyway. Suddenly, he asks her if she has kissed Minami, but she assures him that they have never gone that far, and her lips have only tasted Jirou's. Shiori hugs him and rises him, saying how lonely she is to see him with Akari, and when Shiori asks him to show her his love that even Akari doesn't know, Jirou kisses her. Meanwhile, even without Akari confessing, Minami family zones her and tells her that he sees her like a little sister. She asks him if that feeling can change if they become husband and wife in the marriage practical, but he says that it can't. Minami reveals that he always knew about her feelings for him, and it pleases him to know that someone sees him that way, but Minami tells Akari that he loves someone else. Akari asks if it's Shiori, and Minami laughs at her question, stating that there's nothing between them as the person he loves is a hot mommy who will never love him back. Minami tells Akari that he doesn't want her to go through the same thing, which is why he is happy when she calls out for Jirou instead of him. Minami encourages her to pursue the one she truly loves and apologizes for not loving her back, but Akari starts crying, stating that he shouldn't apologize for being someone who was once special to her. After calming down, Akari becomes determined to win Jirou over without any regrets, and they wish each other luck on each other's love life. She then sleeps on his shoulder while waiting for the rain to stop, but Minami is still taken aback that Akari thinks that he loves Shiori as he knows that she loves someone else. And like the good man that he is, Minami wishes both girls to be happy. Weeks later, after the beach trip, Akari visits the shrine to pray to the anime gods, asking them to make her the main heroine of this anime and win over Jirou. Meanwhile, Shiori is still thinking about her juicy kiss with Jirou and wonders what he felt about her when they kissed. On the other side, Jirou is also worrying about the same thing and gets frustrated over figuring out how Shiori felt that night. So to get his mind away from it, he goes to the bookstore to look at some manga. But when he tries to pick the one that he wants, Shiori happens to also be attempting to pick up the same manga. They both are shocked to see each other here, and he asks Shiori if she is also a smelly anime fan, which most of our viewers are, but she says no, stating that her brother sent her to pick one for him. They chit-chat for a few minutes, and Jirou feels happy that they get to speak like this instead of speaking at the new school term, where things are still awkward like they just had a one-night stand. Then it starts raining, and while Jirou is looking for more topics so he can continue talking to her, the anime gods help him out, and Shiori invites him to her home to wait for the rain to die out. There, they sit together awkwardly and drink some expensive tea. They then read their own books, but Jirou is unable to read anything as all of his attention is on Akari and her plotful features that make him want to bust one out. When she spots him staring, she feels insecure and goes to her room to calm herself down and think about whether she should step outside in full lingerie and cream out his baby batter. Jirou is thinking about the same thing, but suddenly, Shiori steps out to inform him that there's a double rainbow outside. They take a picture together in front of the rainbow, and Jirou thinks that it's the perfect time to confess, but before he gets to do so, she shows him another picture of them alongside the others at the beach. Jirou sees Akari in the picture and decides to withdraw his confession, but at home, he wonders why he didn't tell Shiori of her feelings after seeing Akari. Just then, Akari texts him that she's bored, and while Jirou feels his heart skipping, Akari on the other side is tweaking, not being able to text normally. However, Akari gathers her bravery and invites Jirou for a date which he is panicking about, thinking it's a trap where he will act as her slave and get mocked by her friends. However, he starts thinking that it might be an actual date, so he decides to come. Jirou arrives 10 minutes early, but after 15 minutes, Akari is still not there. Just as he's about to leave, Akari pops up in full drip and makeup, apologizing for being late. Jirou tells her he didn't expect that she'll actually come, stating that they have never done this, but Akari assures him that what they are doing is a date. Akari then asks Jirou if she looks cute, stating that she bought the dress she's wearing just for him after how he once told her that he likes dresses like this. Jirou simply says she looks nice and gets confused about why she's doing this, but before he gets to process her words, Akari pulls him to start their date. Akari takes him to a cafe first, and Jirou recognizes it from the TV as the place that Akari likes the most, and it surprises Akari how he remembers it. Jirou drinks his chocolate drink, and when Akari asks to have a sip, he gives it to her, and when he sees her reaction, he realizes that it's a face he has never seen from Akari before. Then, Akari takes Jirou to a cat park, and there, Jirou realizes that he could never be with Akari like this if it weren't for the marriage practice. Just then, Akari plays with a cat due to how cute it is, and she asks him to join her to play with it. They continue their date with various activities, and during it, Jirou enjoys himself, acknowledging that he doesn't mind going on dates like this. Hours later, Akari shows him some pictures from their date, but when she shows him a picture of them with the cat, Jirou points out that it looks like there's a family with the cat as their child. Akari feels happy to hear that and promises to invite him again sometime, and here, Jirou realizes that she actually invited him on a real date and not a fake one. Before they split up to go their separate ways, Akari forgets something at the shrine, so she heads back there, and Jirou follows her. Just then, they run into Shiori on their way, who is also surprised to see them. Akari tells her that they're going to the shrine, and after hearing this, Shiori wants to come with them so she can pay respect. However, she also suggests to Akari that they both race there, and refusing to reject her challenge, Akari agrees. They give their baggage to Jirou and start running against each other, passing some kids, a couple, a marriage, a new family, a growing family, and as they try to overtake one another, it's not only a race for them both, as they both deep down know they're fighting for the same person. However, they arrive at the same time, and there, they agree to a tie. Jirou arrives after them, and they pray together, but while both girls are praying for Jirou to pick them, Jirou himself is praying for a non-existent Season 2 where he gets to bag and clap both baddies at the same time. If you watched this video and made it to the end, comment "fake wife's cheeks are better than a real wife's cheeks."